Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Washing Dishes, where we're making one of my all-time takeout Chinese food classics, beef with broccoli and chow mein. This is one of my all-time favorite things to get when I order takeout from Chinese restaurants, and it's really just a Chinese-American takeout classic. I'm going to do this a little bit out of order. What you're watching right now is just me breaking down all of the veggies. I'm slicing everything pretty small so that it cooks quickly. The broccoli is going to be in a little bit bigger chunks, mostly because I like my broccoli to still have some crunch in my beef and broccoli, just, to kind of keep some texture around. But the stuff that's going in the chow mein, like the cabbage and that sort of stuff, is going to be real small so that it cooks quickly. Stir fry is one of those dishes where you want everything in the pan as little as possible, but you also do want to get some good, color and flavor development. So keeping things small lets them cook evenly and quickly, and it's going to help us quite a bit. So with all of that broken down into small, quickly cooking chunks, let us get on with the beef part of the beef and broccoli, and then we'll do the chow mein a little bit after that. Sorry, this is a little out of order. I did this first, but I wanted to talk over the veg prep. I hope you'll forgive me. Anyway, so I have a mixture of thin cut beef shoulder and very thin cut beef top round. I've used both individually before for this. I'm going to use both together this time. Should be great. I've had these in the freezer for about an hour, hour and a half, and that's going to help us get nice, even cuts. So I'm going to lay these out and bring you in closer and show you how we're going to slice them. So this is the top round. It's pretty lean, but that's fine. We're going to add a lot of flavor, and you can see it's already cut pretty thin. So we're just going to kind of turn this into nice strips across the grain. And because this was frozen for a while, it cuts nice and easy, and you can see we're just doing about, a little more than a 1/4 inch. Good old gallon Ziploc bag. And we'll just pile this in. Let's talk marinades. Specifically, let's talk marinades that are going to become sauces. You can turn most marinades into a sauce by boiling it. You absolutely, positively have to boil it. You have to, if it's going to touch raw anything, you have to boil it before you eat it. So, with that said, I'm going to eyeball these, but there will be actual quantities down in the description. This is one of my favorite recipes. I make it with beef and pork and chicken all the time, so I know how much of each of these goes into this. So, we're going to start with some soy sauce, which is basically, other than being delicious, is liquid salt. We're going to go with some mirin. I had to buy more at the grocery store today because I was out. Mirin is a Asian cooking wine. If you can get Shaoxing wine, Shaoxing, Shaoxing wine, you can find it at most Asian grocery stores. That would be a better option than this. But the mirin will do just fine. I'm going to add a little bit of toasted sesame oil. We're going to add more of this later, but I don't want it to overpower. Obviously, we're adding some MSG. Not too much. MSG is basically salt, and we already added a fair amount of salt with the soy sauce. I'm going to add a lot of ginger. I happen to like this really gingery, so if you're not huge on ginger, Whatever I put in the comment, in the description, cut that by like 2/3, and it'll be kind of your average level of ginger. I store my ginger in the freezer so that I can grate it like this. It's handy, but I also tend to buy a bunch of ginger at a time when I buy ginger. So if you just have a little bit of ginger, you can mince this up pretty easily. Whoop. I want ginger, not fingernails, so we're going to call it there. And the reason I can add so much ginger and mirin, which are both kind of bright, acidic-y flavors, is because the next thing we're going to add is oyster sauce. This is Lee Kum Kee oyster sauce. Use your favorite brand. I like theirs. It smells so good. It smells like super earthy and rich. And because it's so earthy and rich, that's why we can add so much brightness with the other flavors. So we're going to add, I think I usually use about a tablespoon of this. I'm probably going to add a little bit more because I'm making more than I usually do because I'm having a friend over for dinner. And I also want leftovers to take to work for lunch. So I'm also going to add some cornstarch. That'll help us thicken it up. And coating the beef with a little bit of cornstarch will also help it cook and brown up better, even though it's going to be moist when we stir fry it. All right, so we're going to seal this up with all the air in it and give it the old mixeroonie. Now that that's evenly mixed up, we'll get the air out of it. I like to give it a little roll when I can. Don't let any moisture out. Seal it up. Pop it in a container in case the bag leaks. Pop it in the fridge for at least an hour. You could go as long as like overnight. I wouldn't go much more than that. It'll get too salty. But yeah, so I'll be back in a little bit and we'll get this fired up and we'll start the chow mein as well. See you in a few.
1 hour later.
I'm just going to strain off the marinade into my measuring cup, and then I'm going to add a little bit more of everything that I put in the marinade, just to kind of bulk out the sauce. Then we're going to pat and dry off the beef, and then we should be ready to go with our stir fry.
That's it.
Before we do any cooking in a wok, we're going to do a little preparation. We're going to get some oil in it. We're going to heat it up to smoking, and then we're going to dump it out.
Okay. So it looks like we've got everything ready to go. One of the things about stir fry is that once you start, you can't stop. So I've got my water to boil noodles in, a little bit off camera. I've got my sauce reducing. I've got the wok that I'm going to be doing most of the work in. I've got my chow mein noodles. Veggies for the broccoli, other veggies here. I've got the beef ready to go. My wok is heating up. I've got that little bit of oil in it, and we're just going to kind of swirl that around. Oh, most importantly, I've got a towel, because everything is going to be hot. So we're just going to swirl this around, make sure that it's nice and coated, and then dump it off. I've also got a bowl off to the side so that as things are done, I can move them out of the way. Now, once I start going, it's going to get loud and there's going to be a lot of clanging and banging. So I'm going to hand you off to VoiceOver Wash, who will explain what I'm doing as we go. Let's go.
And as promised, VoiceOver Wash here. I'm adding some oil to the pan and letting that heat up. And then I'm going to throw the beef in and start to sear that. And that kind of brings us to one of the elephants in the room. So here's the deal. You can't really stir fry in a home kitchen. At least not what we usually think of as stir fry. Here's the thing. So stir fry is done in a wok over extremely high heat. And to be perfectly frank, unless you fancy, amazing range at home, your stove probably doesn't put out enough heat to do it. So, yeah. I'm tossing the beef around. I'm trying to get a sear on it. If I were doing this on a restaurant wok range, this would be done in about 45 to 90 seconds, just depending on how much beef I threw in at any given time. In a home kitchen, it's going to take a little longer. It just is. So we're going to toss it around, we're going to spread it out, we're going to let it get some color, we're going to toss it around, etc., 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 and we're just going to kind of keep everything moving and then let it sit and sear for a minute and let some of the moisture cook off. And really, it's just a matter of doing that until it starts to take on color and then getting it out of the pan quickly so that you don't overcook it. All of this is going to come back together at the end, so it's okay if we do things kind of piecemeal, a batch at a time. So, with that said, we're going on, we're getting the beef done, we're getting the broccoli done, and then we're moving on with our noodles and chow mein, and it's all going to be quite delicious. We just have to accept that we're not going to get exact restaurant duplicate results. Don't worry, this is still going to be absolutely delicious, and frankly, probably cheaper and better than getting takeout.
There we go.
With the beef and broccoli part of this done, I'm going to wipe out my wok real quick just to get any residual little bits out, and then we're going to go in on the chow mein. You saw while I was doing the beef that I cooked the noodles and set them aside so that they'd be ready, which means...
Now for the chow mein.
And the plan here is the same as the plan with the beef and broccoli. Throw stuff in, toss it around, get it all heated up. In this case, since the noodles are already cooked, the cabbage only kind of needs to be cooked, the green onions cook quick, and the carrots cook quick, this is going to be blazing fast. It's basically going to keep moving the whole time, and I'm just trying to get everything warmed through and softened up a little bit and just get a little bit of color on the cabbage and the carrots. And then I think we're good to go with plating. So yeah, let's get this all plated up and give it a taste. And, you know, let's not pretend I'm doing anything clever with the plating here. I'm piling the noodles in the middle of the plate and then arranging the beef with broccoli around it and then adding some of my homemade sriracha, which you can find a recipe for in the link in either the card or the description. I'll get it in there somewhere. Anyway, let's, is this the most beautiful dish I've ever plated? No. Does it still look absolutely delicious and amazing? Heck yeah, it does. Let's dive in.
Let's dig in. This looks so good. Stir the noodles around a little bit. This is kind of cheating. I know I'm going to love this because it's two of my favorite things. I love noodle dishes that's just like a pile of noodles, and I love, here's a pile of delicious food. Try it! So this is going to be a home run, for sure. Alright, I maybe put a little too much hot sauce on, but boy, that's good. Let's try the beef and broccoli. Yeah, that came out great. Even though we use kind of what could have been tough, you know, stringy cuts of meat, because we cut it so thin, because we cooked it nice and with a good sear, it came out really delicious, really tender, and this is just absolutely amazing. I am going to go have dinner. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your time zone. Oh, and if you like this, check out some of these, or find me on social media down in the description. Catch you later. Thanks for watching.